The classic. Let's get things going with a cough. Straight on the microphone. Day 10. How are you doing, Daniel?
It's still morning, but different day.
Yeah, true. We make it quite early. Many thanks for adjusting your schedule in line with mine, because it just makes a difference to start my days with this setup and then just jump into the whatever the days bring about at work. So it makes a difference for myself. So most appreciated. You did the LinkedIn classic, which is made things a little bit more public in terms of trying to find a job and all that type of stuff with your update.
I could actually check how much did it get some actual responses. Well, it did a bit. It's kind of interesting that I'll just scroll down to see the content.
If you don't mind, I'll just share it.
Yes,
so it'll be just a little bit more interesting for the folks listening.
And then show all activity, and then there is posts on the top. Click posts. And I also reposted. Yeah. That's when looking at the like every LinkedIn post also has post analytics. So that was 1.5 days or a little bit over one day ago. So it's like 2,500 people had seen it in.
Yeah, in some way or another. But I like this. If I'll comment straight away, I like the fact that 8 people have reposted your your post, and that's quite neat. It doesn't, it doesn't the conversion rate, I suppose, is the most important one. So how many leads to have initial discussions have you had is probably the only important sort of indication. How useful has it been? But at the same time, it's all about thinking about both short term but also longer term. So I suppose we are on the track of the topic personal branding, if you like. And
some of the people who reposted, mostly almost all of them are either direct contacts or secondary. One was like artists who have been working with games industry. One was like a person with long career in IT, but now retired. Then there was systems engineer in one global company. And kind of principal test engineer, data architect, customer support, kind of different kind of companies, and then one friend who is working at Mozilla.
And I would say that then what to do could be to keep doing that. And coming up with perhaps another pointer somehow related to your stuff that you are thinking about doing or you are interested in, but related to this topic that you would be loving to contribute. And you could be doing some, and I'm thinking about how I got started with this semi-public presence on the online, but I'm thinking that you could easily take some public examples of different companies, kind of like sharing, some very good examples of, hey, this has been nicely done by such and such company, and kind of like stir a little bit of conversation going online, and make sure that you are then connected to these examples that are kind of like in that sphere where you want to be sort of contributing and working on. Because literally I'm thinking 2016 was the year when I got started with the LinkedIn presence and public, I don't know, trolling on LinkedIn. I've never been too big of a troll, to be honest with you, but started to communicate with LinkedIn. I had been using LinkedIn up until that point as a bit of a
address book.
Yeah, passive CV, really.
Yeah.
And I had been working in a recruitment role before, but I was only using LinkedIn then to directly, to contact people and that type of stuff. and at that point, I was working at the time in the public sector, and I was doing a year full-time PhD research at the University of Edinburgh. And I had a big worry, which was I'm going to be stuck with the public sector jobs. Whether that worry was real or not, that's debatable. But that was kind of like my ultimate motivation to start being more active, communicating with people in the field, and networking with people that are in the same field, and being sure that I am up to whatever it is, kind of like with the people in Finland, in the recruitment field and so forth. So that was kind of like my starting point, and to a degree, I would say that I never looked back, because I've been quite active with different stuff on LinkedIn and YouTube and that type of stuff, and with I think the main point being that if I'm being wanting to land a job at a later point or secure an opportunity to be landing a job, then it's the contents being more sort of job related, so that I'm relevant to that discussion. And then sometimes there's also that feeling that I have a little bit of an insight of how things are done, and at the same time I feel that a lot of people are talking about the same thing. So let's do also a little bit of what we are doing with these videos, of trying to at least what's the good expression, but give something back or whatever, because it's not easy, especially when it comes to the first sort of relevant roles. It's not easy to land the first role, and it's easy. People have 5 or 10 years of experience, and they're always like, oh, it's so easy to land a job, and all these headhunters are bothering me, and it's like, sure, but before you got to that stage, you had to climb a few kind of like initial ladders of your career, and I think that's sort of a
it's kind of like but that also tells a lot about like people who have lots of like funny words on their CV. Of course it's easy to find those profiles from LinkedIn from the recruiter's viewpoint, but are those people really suitable for the role they're like recruiter is trying to fill? It's another question, because many of the recruiters not really that deep into technology. So basically they are looking at the keywords without understanding how those are connected to each other. So lots of people have quite deep experience in certain areas, but if you just look at the keywords, you don't understand.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think, you know, I'm a typical example of a recruiter that has a humanist background. I suppose my career track is a little bit different to some of the others. A lot of the recruiters tend to have a sales background. I'm sort of coming from the education field that jumped then into recruitment. But the same, you know, applies to me and salespeople or sales background people in recruitment, is that I don't really understand all things technical. But at the same time, I suppose, you know, when you are referring to those kind of like technical terms and so forth, from my point of view, it's all about looking at the career track.
Yeah.
And then, you know, having this some sort of a mind map level understanding of, you know, how things are technologically connected, and you know, what's the point of cloud and Kubernetes, or, you know, or then, you know, something else Linux based, and all the rest of it. So you know, it's not deep. No, it's quite vague, I would argue. But at the same time, it's this perspective then on the person going through the career at different roles with different responsibilities, taking perhaps a technical route, you know, senior developer becoming an architect, yada yada yada, or then kind of like a more managerial, or jumping into startup, or whatever. But yeah, kind of getting excited here about this topic because it's quite close to my heart. But
yeah, but it's just like there are many different ways. I think it's for recruiters who are kind of like collaborating with companies or some tech department or whatever. It's the key for you and many others is first to talk about with the technical side people inside that company. What they really want, what kind of people they really want, and kind of first understanding the needs of the company itself. Then it's easier to find suitable people for.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's at the same time it's looking outside, but it's also looking inside.
Yeah,
kind of what direction the company wants to go.
And then, you know, it's sometimes it's quite just plain, what are the skills that the company needs, what type of experience the company needs in, and then, you know, thinking about, hey, you know, how this particular person then fits to that role, and what the person can bring in, and also what the person has to be learning at. Because I think that one of the key elements in recruitment is that, you know, when you are looking at a sort of somebody has been doing X, Y, and Z, and then jumping into another role, X, Y, and Z, then there is no
if there's no learning.
Exactly. When it's sort of status quo in terms of learning, there is no motivation in that. So it's then optimizing something else, and it can be then salary. Sometimes it can be that the work commute, you know, but you know, so I believe in learning that, you know, in every single role, it's always good to be learning new things, and all the rest of it. But then coming back to where we started, you know, this personal branding, and what types of activities to engage in, and so forth. You know, you know, I think you have both a short-term goal, which is kind of like, okay, let's go for landing a part-time role to support the, you know, study period, which is going to take a couple of years or so for you. But then, of course, you have the, you know, longer plan, which is then, I suppose, your strategic perspective on employee personal branding. What's the direction you want to be taking your career towards?
That's really good question in many ways. Also, like, it's one of the questions quite many companies ask when they interview people, what you want to be in a few years. And the most horrible answer is like, I don't know. I don't have any clue where I want to be in my world.
Yeah.
But it's quite honest, but in a sense. But it's maybe not something most want to hear.
Yeah, I would in that situation turn it around and just say that that it's all about I'm open to new opportunities and making the most of what the potential I have and blah blah blah, and thinking about your sort of studies in I think it's sort of between IT and business.
Yeah.
So I think you have a good direction there. It's somewhere between IT and business that you are going to be moving towards, and which will be allowing you to go to a number of trajectories based on the opportunities that you are able to land.
Years ago, I even have somewhere drawing of it, but I kind of like think if there's kind of triangle, there's business, there's like technology, and then one is design, because I have also been like kind of studied visual side and done that. So it's kind of like somewhere between. It's just like not like just numbers or just code, but it's kind of like there is variety of ways. And for example, like kind of visual side is good because if you think about, like, for example, business, lots of it is also about like people making presentations and stuff like that. So you have probably seen quite many slideshows where people don't have any visual idea what things look like, and those can be a little bit more painful to follow if people stuff tons of text, random stuff. So it's kind of good to have also the visual background because it helps to communicate better.
Yeah, definitely. And from my point of view, kind of like just hearing those three elements, I'm instantly thinking about small companies, startups, which are ultimately they start. I previously as a consultant, I was working also with some startups, and they start often with an idea. There's perhaps two founders. They might lack the technological know-how. They might have the domain background and they recognize that there is potential to, in essence, digitalize something. And then it's all about then trying to come up with, they start with a business corner, and then they lack the technology. They might have some sort of good understanding of the design because again it's sort of connected to the domain. Of course, then whether it's designed for the technology side, it's a completely different topic, but still. And so because the bigger the company, the bigger the organization, the more separate.
Yeah, it's kind of siloed. Everything's like this role this person only does they only like write documentation. They don't write code. Or for example, this person like only sells something.
Yeah.
They don't participate in actually like planning like how things work.
Yeah.
Even while those are often connected, like.
Yeah, and I would argue that even the big organizations, because I've been working in a few also, they manage to do that, quite well. They are, everything is connected, because otherwise the big organizations would be just blown over by the startups because they would be so cumbersome and dinosaur like. It's not the reality. Even though it's a bit of a cliche. But what I'm thinking now is thinking about your case, and thinking about the content that you could be sharing, because I think quite rarely these three aspects are sort of talked about, in a smart manner. So I'm because the entrepreneurs that are thinking about these three, they are then all about their own case. So I'm thinking, could there be a bit of a niche that you could be talking about And also then, online, for example, using LinkedIn, and which would be then a bit of a personal brand of yours, that you are the guy that is talking about how to constantly connect these themes and share some interesting content out there and etc. Because I think it wouldn't be a bad brand or image to have. He's the guy. Yeah, he's the guy. That's go ahead.
For example, like one good example. Well, there's many, but like of kind of person who finds good things and kind of summarizes them and then like shares. Is like, for example, Adi Osmani, who is like working at Google doing developer advocate stuff.
Yeah.
Like he kind of like finds really nice content and kind of like makes it like understandable in like few sentences or something, and then like people enjoy following kind of that kind of things because they always learn something, even if they don't have like time to go through the whole thing.
Yeah, makes sense.
Kind of like saving people time from learning.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, then thinking about the tone of voice, I think a lot of people, they tend to be very provocative and so forth. If it's intellectual provocation, it can be useful, but at the same time, there's always risks. Yeah, there's risks in everything. But I think every one of us have a personal brand. People know us for certain things, and with this type of activities of sharing then content, sharing, taking part in conversations, and so forth, we are able to perhaps a little bit affect and influence what type of a personal brand we are going to be developing for ourselves in the future. Because otherwise, if we are not developing it, or at least trying to develop it, it will be still something, along the lines of, what the other people say when you're not in the room about yourself and all that type of stuff. So, I think it's a commendable activity regardless.
Years ago, in 2016, I kind of like I was following one researcher who has been researching like what direction of work and learning and stuff like that is going, and he has written basically that post-industrial work is learning. So basically, like everything knowledge work is really it's about learning and how to like turn the like massive amount of whatever knowledge or data or whatever to something that can be like used in useful ways. So and related to that same article was kind of basically learning starts from questions. Kind of it's if you don't ask questions, you don't learn. It's kind of similarly, or you might learn, but much slower.
Yeah.
So
and then one thing, you can always, thinking about the personal brand element and communicating to other people before and then calling it a day. I think there's nothing bad. It's only positive to be sharing the learning. A lot of people are thinking about the same topics, same things. It's kind of, for me, the best content on LinkedIn, for example, it's come out of scenarios when I've been like really learned something new. Then I've been thinking, oh, bloody hell, I could be probably sharing this with others because I'm probably not the only one who's sort of getting some new thoughts on this and etc. So, definitely recommend you and also all the others, listening to consider doing that.
For example,
but I need to call it today.
But see you later, and
we'll carry
let's
on
continue
tomorrow.
later.
Yes, we'll do that. Many thanks and have a great day.
Thank you.